Ina hoe wha, no mai hari mai te whare wanaga o Waitaha. Welcome to the University of Canterbury this evening to our What If series. My name is Paul Fleming, I'm Pro Vice Chancellor for Science, and it's my pleasure and honour to welcome our speaker for this evening. I would like to now welcome Dr. Oliver Hartwig, who is representing the New Zealand Initiative, one of the newest think tanks in New Zealand to come to give us a profile of our speaker this evening.
Thank you very much, Paul. I'm very pleased to be able to co-host this event this evening. For those who have not yet encountered us, the New Zealand Initiative is New Zealand's newest think tank. Its mission is to develop and contribute bold thinking to help build a better and a stronger New Zealand. We support new ways of looking at old challenges. And it is in this spirit that we welcome Mike Feinberg here tonight to share and debate ideas on how to engage more young people more effectively in learning. Seeing access for all New Zealanders to a high-quality education is one of our priority areas of interest. That's not just because it is critical to the well-being of all New Zealanders and their ability to lead satisfying, fulfilling lives. It also underpins New Zealand's ability to foot it with the rest of the world. We need to be open-minded about how to achieve that, and I trust you've all come here tonight in that spirit. Before I introduce Mike, I'd like to pay tribute to Julian Robertson and the Aotearoa Foundation for bringing Mike over here. This is a private philanthropic foundation with a strong focus on education. In addition to Julian Robertson's Kiwi connection, its chief executive and president is New Zealander John Hood, former vice-chancellor of Auckland and Oxford universities. I think you all know that Mike Feinberg co-founded the Knowledge is Power program, KIPP, in 1994 with Dave Levin and established the KIPP Academy Houston a year later. Together they co-founded the KIPP Foundation in 2000, which now has a network of 125 high-performing public charter schools in high-poverty areas across 20 states in the US. Dr. Feinberg is Executive Vice Chair of KIPP Houston, which includes 21 public charter schools, 9 primary schools, 9 middle schools, and 3 high schools. I will not take up time telling you more about KIPP because that's exactly what Mike is going to do. But what he may not mention is that in 2006, he and Dave Levin were awarded the Thomas B. Fordham Prize for Excellence in Education and the National Jefferson Award for Greatest Public Service by a Private Citizen. In 2008, they received the Presidential Citizens Medal at the White House. In 2009, they were the recipients of the Charles Bronfman Prize, as well as the Manhattan Institute's William E. Simon Prize for Lifetime Achievement in Social Entrepreneurship. And in 2011, they were awarded the Guardian of the Human Spirit Award by the Holocaust Museum in Houston, given to dedicated Houstonians who have worked to enhance the lives of others and to better humankind. Dr. Feinberg has a BA from the University of Pennsylvania and a Master's of Education from National Louis University. After graduating from Penn, he joined Teach for America and taught 5th grade in Houston, Texas. In 2004, Dr. Feinberg was named as Ashoka Fellow, which is awarded to leading social entrepreneurs with innovative solutions and the potential to change patterns across society. In 2010, Yale University awarded Mike an honorary doctorate of humane letters. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome a very distinguished and innovative educationist, Dr. Mike Feinberg.
Thank you for that intro. Kia ora, how you doing? Or as we say in Texas where I'm from, howdy y'all. I appreciate that introduction. You know, the most important title as I stand in front of you is I'm a teacher. And in the spirit of teaching and learning, I'm here to share what a lot of our lessons learned in the last 20 years of what we've done for children in the U.S. And I'm also here to also learn because we're on a mission to learn and grow and get better every day. There's a lot of things we do well with our kids, and there's things that we still need to work on as well. So in the spirit of teaching and learning, it's great to be in front of you. When I start talking about KIPP, I always start with the Maasai. They're a tribe in Africa who, when their warriors are traveling between the villages, the way they greet one another, and they say hello, is the first warrior turn to the second warrior and ask, and how are the children? And the second warrior responds, all the children are well. I love that because it's the right focus, right expectations from a society. It's the focus on the well-being of their children, and it's the expectation of well-being of all their children. And it's something that the Maasai have built into their very fabric of society, what they do 50 times a day. Good morning, good afternoon, how you doing? And how are the children? All the children are well. If we ask that question here in Christchurch, in New Zealand, in America today, how are our children? The honest answer would be, so. Some children are doing just fine. But the brutal fact is not nearly enough, which is why I hope we're all here to be thinking about what more can we be doing to make sure all of our children get a great education. So I do have a couple boring slides I'm gonna make you suffer through until we get to some more fun slides. But I want to just kind of give a context of what's going on in America and what's going on in New Zealand of why we need to do this work. Right now, the context of this is the pipeline in the United States today. There's we look at all the kids, 83% graduate high school, 62% enter universities, 31% have a bachelor's or higher degree. First off, before I even go any further, I should explain why we at KIPP are so focused on a university degree. Because I know there is an interesting debate raging in the States, and it's probably here as well, is a university degree for every child. When we think about that at KIPP, we have 3 heartfelt responses and then a pragmatic response. At KIPP, we believe, first off, when people argue that a university degree is not for every child, most people who make that argument have university degrees. I find that a little hypocritical. Secondly, you look at the Great Recession the United States is still coming out of, where in lots of cities and states, unemployment was 8, 9, 10, 12, 15% in some cities. It never hit 5% with people with university degrees. Third, if we went to any school here in Christchurch and asked the 6 or 7-year-old children, what do you want to be when you grow up? Most of what we hear require university degrees to do those things. So therefore, if we're going to help our children achieve their hopes, dreams, aspirations, that's why we should be aiming all of our children at university degrees. With that said, we do take a more pragmatic approach. We agree that universities are not for every single child. We agree. However, we steadfastly believe that the skills to go to the universities are for every child. And it's not for the school system to decide who should go and who should not go. Our job should be to prepare all the kids so after their 12, 13, 14, 15 years of being in a school system, all the doors of opportunity are open to them. If they want to go to a 3, 4, 5-year program and get a bachelor's degree, they can. They want to go to a technical school, trade school, community college, they can. They want to join the military, they can. They want to be the next Bill Gates entrepreneur, they can. They want to sit on their mom's couch, good luck, right? But all those doors of opportunity are open. So they're going to choose the one, they're going to have the freedom to choose the one that's going to make them the happiest and most fulfilled. That's ultimately what we want, and that's why we focus so much on the university degree. And so, we think we want that 31%, as far as we're concerned, is too low. We need to move the needle on that. At the same time, just know that, in the United States, a lot of people think our school system has gotten worse. Actually, that 31% has flatlined for 50 years. And interestingly enough, if you look at people in the United States, age 45 and above, at 31%, we lead the world by far in the percent of people with university degrees. The challenge is if you look at people aged 23 to 44, we're 16th in the world at 31% and dropping like a rock. So it's not necessarily that we're getting worse, just that the rest of the world is starting to figure out how you educate more of their children and better. And so that's why we're trying to move the needle on 31%. So we start to unpack these numbers, figure out where should we focus the most to fix some of these leaks in the pipeline we see right there. You unpack it by income level in the United States. Here's the top quartile income. This is their pipeline. 93% graduate high school, 90% entered the universities, 82% graduate. Right? Are there leaks in that pipeline? Sure. Can we improve those numbers? Of course. Are those going to be huge, significant changes to the overall percent of the United States? Not really, because those numbers are already pretty high. If we compare that to the bottom quartile of the United States, this is their pipeline. 70% graduating high school, 41% entering university, 8% graduating. This, my friends, is the achievement gap we face in the United States. People will talk about the achievement gap in terms of test scores, and in terms of attendance in school and dropout rates. Those are leading indicators. For me, we think the achievement gap is at the end of the day, what opportunity do you have to take the education you received and have the freedom to do in this world what you want to do? Unfortunately, what this shows that in the United States today, the land of the free, the home of the brave, the place where we like to talk about this American dream, depending on the time and place of your birth, you have either an 82% chance or an 8% chance of being able to do in this world what you want to do. That's ridiculous, we think. And that's why we're focused, that's what we need to change. What this looks like in the New Zealand context, well, this is the New Zealand pipeline. You have all your kids, 2/3 achieve level 2, 40% are at level 3 and achieving tertiary degrees, and 14% are having a bachelor's or higher. Again, if we unpack, so again, I mean, there's leaks in that pipeline too. Overall, and again, the New Zealand test scores on PISA and international exams are a lot better than the United States. And some of these numbers are a little bit better too. But at the same time, there's still leaks in the pipeline. So from that regard, who cares what the PISA scores are if our kids aren't prepared at the end of the day to be able to take whatever knowledge they had in order to do on that PISA score and do in this world what they want to do. In that regard, we're in the same boat. We both have leaks in our pipeline that we need to work on. And if we unpack this by ethnicity here in New Zealand, here it is for the Asian and European students, here it is for Pacifica, here it is for Maori. And so we can see this is the achievement gap that you face, that I'm here now, I guess we face, in New Zealand. All right? It doesn't look exactly the same as the United States, but it's an achievement gap nonetheless. So again, depending on the time and place of your birth here in New Zealand, you have either a much better or a much worse shot at being able to do in this world what you want to do, take your education, and have the freedom and have those doors of opportunity open. And I think as we look at this, the first question we need to ask them, so what are we going to do about it? The starting point, as far as I'm concerned, is not how we change the curriculum. The starting point is not how we change teacher preparation. The starting point is not how we change funding, how we change assessment, how we change testing. I mean, those are all issues. And we definitely can do things in all those type of questions to make the education system better. The fundamental question of whichever achievement gap we're looking at is, what do we believe about these stats? Do we believe that we can make a difference? Or is that simply the way it is? Do we believe that poverty is too difficult to overcome, and we can't expect schools to help low-income children achieve in school and life, and we just have to wait for first society to fix poverty, and then we'll get after it? Or do we think that education actually is a way to combat poverty and help get kids have a better life? I don't know if I'm preaching to the choir or not. We believe in the latter. We believe that we can use education as a way to make sure that that does not have to be destiny. The demographics do not determine destiny. Those stats don't have to be the way. And several of you in this room might agree with me. The bad news I'm going to share, though, is that whether I've learned as I'm here in New Zealand or back in the United States, collectively as a society, we don't yet believe that that is malleable, that we can change those numbers. And to illustrate that lack of belief, I want everyone to do a quick mental exercise. In your heads right now, I want you to picture 2 high schools. Picture wherever you're from, in the neighborhood, whatever the closest, most elite university prep high school is. Public, private, doesn't matter. Just whatever is the most elite university prep high school closest to where you live. Everyone got that in your head? Yep. Now, second high school, I want you, wherever the closest low-income, minority-serving high school is to where you live. Picture that high school too. Everyone's got that one? Yes, some people nodding. Okay, some people not nodding. I hope you're not sleeping already. So let's start with the elite university prep high school. A kid there graduates, goes off to university. Yeah, they all do. A kid there drops out of school. What happened? All the parents are whispering at pickup time. Now go to the typical minority low-income school. A kid there drops out. Yeah, have to. In some schools, more than half. A kid there graduates, goes to the universities, is successful in those universities, go off in the world, successful in this world. Friends, we make a TV movie of the week about that kid. So at a societal level, what that demonstrates is that we still hold, as a society, different beliefs and expectations for our children, depending on the time and place of their birth. I think that's ridiculous, which is why we're on a mission to prove the possible and prove that's not the case. Because ultimately, though, that's got to be the starting point. Because if we don't collectively believe that a different outcome is possible, how can we expect to spend all this time and energy and political capital to change laws and change policies if we don't think and don't believe a different outcome is possible? So that's why we believe that the beliefs and the mindsets are where we have to start. And that's what Dave and I, and so we'll fast forward. So this is what we've been doing on so far. This is the KIPP pipeline right here. We track from 8th grade to be more transparent. I'll explain in a minute. We started with 5th grade. We get up through 8th grade. A lot of the kids stay with us for high school, but we also believe in choice, so we also help our kids go to other high schools. Wherever they go to secondary school, all of our kids are in denominator because we want to track and show how all of our kids are doing. 98% graduate high school, 90% enter the universities, 41% graduate from the universities, 18% are still persisting, meaning they're on the Mike Feinberg plan. They're taking a little bit longer to graduate. So when we look at these numbers, we have mixed feelings. On one hand, we celebrate these numbers, and the fact that they're 5 times higher than the national average in America for low-income kids means we've added a lot of value. They're 10 points higher than the national average for all kids in all demographics. We celebrate that too. But as I showed you on the previous slide, it's still far below top quartile income kids in the United States. So we still have an achievement gap, which means every day we wake up and think, what more can we be doing, and how can we be getting better at teaching our children to help them get to and through the universities to close that achievement gap. And we're hungry to keep getting better. The way we achieved this, and I'll now talk about just the history of KIPP for a minute. Dave Lev and I were 2 5th grade teachers. 5th grade is 9, 10, 11-year-old children. 20 years ago, we became teachers in Teach for America. They made me a bilingual teacher. I was teaching in English and Spanish. Most of my kids, my first year, did not speak any English. They made me a bilingual teacher because I had a pulse. It's about the reason why. I wasn't bilingual when I started. I quickly became bilingual. And like all first-year teachers, we struggled. We were horrible teachers at the very beginning. But we latched on to master teachers in the building, and we started learning how to teach. We grade papers in the back of their classroom. We ate lunch in the back of the classroom and watched the master teachers do their craft. Teachers learn how to get good, not by sitting in a lecture hall in their university classes. That's how they learn the pedagogy. Teachers learn to be good by watching experienced master teachers do their craft, and we learn as apprenticeship. And so that's how we start. We slowly but surely got good till by the end of the year, we were definitely not great teachers yet, but we were competent teachers. And our kids love coming to our classroom, and they love talking about what career they want to have and what college they were going to. So we naively thought, we've done it. On the K-12 assembly line, we gave the kids a great 5th grade year. Off they go on to bigger and better in secondary schools. And that very naive bubble burst about the second week into our second year of teaching, when our former kids, who now were at the secondary schools, they would call us up at night. And those phone calls would go like this: Mr. Feinberg, can you give me homework? Why do I need to give you homework? Well, the teachers don't give us any homework. What? How come they don't give you any homework? Well, they won't take the books home. What? How come you can't take the books home? They say we'll ruin the books. And that went on for a few months till about by Christmas time. My well-behaved, intelligent, enthusiastic former students were now skipping just as many classes, smoking just as much dope, joining just as many gangs, becoming just as many parents as all the other kids in those secondary schools. Which unfortunately, in the feeder pattern I was teaching in, and same with Dave in his feeder pattern too, nothing new. Those stats were what the normal thing was happening with all the kids. But for Dave and myself, the problem had lots of faces, lots of names, which made it unacceptable. And it was unacceptable. Except when it first started happening, we fell into the trap. The way we handled it was we marched ourselves right to the teacher's lounge, and with all the other teachers, we started doing this. It was easy to blame the teachers in the secondary school, blame the principal there. It was easy to blame the kids. It was easy to blame their parents. It was easy to blame the school system, blame the community, blame society, blame everyone. We were excellent finger pointers. Little did we know, in the secondary schools, in those teachers' lounges, they were pointing the fingers back at us, saying, how can we get kids every year who can't read, can't write, can't compute, and can't walk down a hallway without causing trouble every 2 minutes? And so we had this epiphany in late '93 that all that finger pointing we were doing was just contributing to the problem. And below the finger pointing were the children, and no one was focusing on solutions. And that night we had the epiphany, we realized we had to do one last really important finger point. We had to look in the mirror, and that's the way to point the finger at. Because we realized we had the kids for a whole year. And we couldn't say we set them up not just to go survive in secondary school, but thrive. We couldn't look in the mirror and honestly say we gave our kids all the academic skills, all the intellectual habits, all the qualities of character they would need to go off and do well in 6th grade and secondary school, and have the momentum continue to be able to go to college, do whatever we want to do in this world. We didn't come close to doing that. So we sat down at our computer all night long, poured out our feelings of failure and frustration as teachers onto the computer screen, put on U2, Octung Baby, repeat play, and by about 5 o'clock in the morning, we had the Knowledge is Power program, KIPP, on the computer screen. And the premise of KIPP back then in late 93, and it is almost 19 years later, is that there are no shortcuts. If we're going to try to provide children with all these academic, intellectual, and character skills, quit looking for the magic bullet. Quit looking for the magic computer software program, the magic teacher training module. And those are tools. Tools can help, but tools don't make or break it. People getting after it make or break it. So we were still naive. We thought we could fix this all in 1 year. As fifth grade teachers, we decided we were going to start a program called the Knowledge is Power program, and which meant we were going to motivate children to come to our classroom from 7:30 in the morning till 5 o'clock in the afternoon. They were going to come for 4 hours on Saturdays, then come for a month in the summer. We give them 2 hours of homework every single night. We figured that everybody should do it. We had some interesting conversations with the school district because we want to be an officially sanctioned school system program. You know, we're in the neighborhood we were teaching, you know, well over 90% of our kids were qualifying for a federal breakfast and lunch program, meaning that they were low income. You know, we wanted them to come on Saturdays, so we had to raise, and there's no federal program on Saturdays, so we had to raise money to give them a lunch on Saturdays. We want to raise money to give them on some extra field lessons, to make some experiential learning. So we want to be an officially sanctioned program which will help us go out and raise money as an NGO. You know, when we first had meetings with the school district, you know, we would be meeting with some mid-level bureaucrat, the assistant superintendent of left brain instruction, people like that, and they would ask us questions like, Mike, you know, Dave, this KIPP thing you want to do, is this ed reform? And we said, well, sure, it's ed reform. And they could tell like, they want to check off the box. Good, I'm glad it's ed reform, so what's the new curriculum? So I can write it down here. And we answered, oh, sorry, there's no new curriculum. You know, we figured lots of very smart people here in the district and the state have written good curriculum. We're just to make sure the kids learn it. And that confused them, right? And they asked, well, if there's no new curriculum, how can this be ed reform? We said, well, the kids will come to school at 7:30 in the morning. They go, okay, now we know what you're doing. You're doing a before-school program. I said, no. So we're going to keep the kids all the way till 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Oh, never mind. You're doing an after-school program. Like, no, we're just lengthening the school day. More time for reading, more time for writing, more time for math, without sacrificing science, history, fine arts, physical education. It's not a pressure cooker, it's a pressure release. More time to get everything done. We just kept being persistent. We basically wouldn't leave their office. And they finally said, we don't get what you're doing, but if you can find 50 kids who are crazy enough to do this, we'll let you do it. So we went door to door at night on the weekends, sat down, you know, around the kitchen table or the living room couch with kids and their parents. We had this commitment to excellence form. It looks like a contract. It's not a legally binding contract. It's like a glorified school enrollment form. It just outlines the hours, behavior expectations. And we didn't look at grades or test scores. Whoever signed up, they were in KIPP. And these were the original dreamers of the dream who signed up to come to KIPP in 1994. And we did have a terrific year with the kids in terms of test scores. You know, 2/3 of our kids came to us either with a bilingual or special ed label. At the end of the year, 3/4 of our kids had achieved a gifted and talented label, so they could go to the magnet middle schools, secondary schools around Houston, which was a immediate goal for them. We quickly realized, even at the better magnet schools to send our kids to, still they were going to be smoking in the bathrooms. No one was going to be pushing them the way we pushed. So we went back and asked the school district if we could change our program into its own school. Still starting in fifth grade, but keeping the kids throughout those turbulent, crazy pre-adolescent years. Right? And this was right before still there were charter schools, and so the district still didn't understand, you know, a new school, what you want us to pass a $20 million bond, build you a building. We were saying, no, just wherever there's room, an empty wing of a school building, an empty floor, some empty modular buildings out back, let's do a school within a school. In the meantime, they were confused, but in the meantime, New York City heard about us. Where New York City, they do schools within schools the last 40 years. A 4-story building in New York City will have a different school on each floor. Right? And they heard about us, and they were going to let us do one of these choice schools in the South Bronx, right near Yankee Stadium. When Houston found out we were going to go to New York, they tried to give us an offer to do the same thing in Houston, focusing on Southwest Houston, which is the immigrant hub of the city. And so being young and dumb, Dave and I took both offers. So in 1995, I stayed in Houston to start KIPP Academy. Dave moved to New York to start KIPP Academy in the South Bronx. And we both started with 5th grade. And now we were able to keep the kids throughout those turbulent, crazy years of middle school and bridge the gap and keep them through all 4 years. Along the way, we became a charter school because simply to have the freedom to do our hours and to hire the type of teachers we wanted to hire and not just teach just to the state curriculum, but teach to a university prep curriculum, we needed all the freedom to do that. So we wound up converting and becoming charter schools along the way. Still part of the public education system. And by the time we got to full size in the 98-99 school year, my kids in Houston had the highest math scores of any public middle school in the state of Texas. And that's with a population, again, that was 99% minority, 90% low income. So a lot of people around the state of Texas started scratching their head and rethink potential, which is what we wanted to happen. And what Dave and his teachers did in New York City, I think, is even more remarkable. So with all that, our kids being successful, people started visiting. Some news programs happened on our kids. The 60 Minutes news show, which a lot of people watch in the United States, did a feature on our kids. And the floodgates opened up. So in the fall of '99, the morning after 60 Minutes aired their program, late morning, I'm running around the school. Back then I was running the school. I was also the 5th grade math teacher. I was a school secretary. I was a lunch lady. I was a custodian. I was a bus driver. So I was doing my 50 things. The phone rings. And it's a school district calling from California. And all I heard on the phone was, Mike, we saw that program on TV last night. We want to order 15 KIPPs for next year, please. Right? So I'm like, you want to order what? I'm like, let me go check inventory. See if I can ship them out to you. Right? People were pegging KIPP as a latest and greatest magic bullet, which is not. But in United States, too often ed reform, we play kindergarten soccer, kindergarten football, where it's basically just it's a mad scrum on the field. Everyone's thinks there's one magic bullet, one shiny thing that's going to fix the education system, and everyone's chasing it around the field. And KIPP was starting to get pegged as one of these magic bullets. That was frustrating. At the same time, it was frustrating, but at the same time, there was an opportunity. And that for the first time in 5 years, people weren't looking at Dave and myself as two young, crazy white guys. They thought that maybe there's some method to the madness going on. And we started thinking, as Teach for America alumni, and believing the Teach for America mission of one day all children should have the opportunity to attain an excellent education. So we started thinking, how do we leverage the success of this little tiny school in Southwest Houston and this little tiny school in the South Bronx, New York, to the greater good? That's where we started asking people for advice and help, and we wound up getting in touch with Don Doris Fisher, the founders of the Gap and Old Navy clothing stores. And in 2000, we partnered up to create a whole brand new foundation to work on this, for lack of a better name, called KIPP Foundation. I want to call it the No Shortcuts Foundation, but Don knows more about brand names than me, and he said, you call it KIPP, and we said, yes, sir. And so the KIPP Foundation started in 2000 to do two things. First off, we were going to scour the country to find other amazing teachers who were already doing great work with low-income kids in their classroom and who had a fire in the belly to take their impact beyond the four walls of their classroom. And we were going to train them for a whole year on how to plan, open, run their own KIPP-like school. And then the other thing we were going to do is while we were training them, we were also going to basically be the midwives and help give birth to new public schools. So when they were done with their training, they could actually start and lead a new public school. And in most of the states in the United States, the way you start a new public school, the ramp to do that was charter schools. So yes, today we are charter school advocates, but we didn't, just know we came at this, we weren't thinking we are charter school advocates and that's why we started schools. We were teachers, and we should say we are teachers. And charter schools are the way we could take our hopes, dreams, aspirations for our children and operationalize it as a school. And so we would help, and KIPP also doesn't run these schools around the country. When we start, we create a local NGO in different cities, recruit a local governing board, help them apply for a charter, help them set up, help them find their initial facility, which is usually not the permanent facility because we start with one grade at a time and grow it slowly to make sure we do this right. And then we license out the KIPP name. All right, so we're not running the school, but so it's just basically as long as they're doing the KIPP basic pillars, which I'll explain in a minute, and as long as we get to decide who the school leader is, which is how we do our quality control through our school leadership training program, they're a KIPP school. And so we were training these people, setting up the KIPP schools. I should mention early on, we didn't do all charter schools. We also contracted with school districts to do some of these new schools as well. The problem with the contracts we had is that over time, we would find really brave, courageous, forward-thinking superintendents and school boards that want to work with us. The problem is 3 or 4 years later, the political winds shift and there's a new superintendent and there's a new school board. They come in and ask, what's the KIPP? And they don't want to do it anymore. So even early on, when we tried to work in the traditional public school system, over time, most of those schools evolved and became charter schools as well, because again, that's how we could both start new public schools and ensure that they were going to be sustainable. And so we started the schools and started the training program around the country. And the most important thing I said of how we're doing this is we were helping people do KIPP-like schools. All of our schools are not exactly the same. They all have a basic structure. If you look at our schools, you can see the family resemblance, but they're not twins, they're cousins. And if you unpack what's in the genetic code that keeps all of our schools in the same family, they'll have these 5 pillars. And this is kind of what we're trying to basically prove is the general structure, not just for KIPP schools, but for any school that's attempting to be successful. Our first pillar is more time on task, every day, every week, and every year. Take a typical school day and school year here in New Zealand. 8 o'clock to 2 o'clock, 8 o'clock to 3 o'clock, 6, 7 hours. But that's not instructional time. Take out lunch, take out recess, take out bathroom breaks, take out a fluffy ancillary period instead of a good ancillary period in too many of our schools. You're down to about 4 hours of instruction a day. And in the United States, that's for about 170 to 180 days a year. New Zealand's 190 days a year. So 4 hours of instruction for at least a little bit less or a little bit more than half the year. Say that one more time. 4 hours of instruction for around half the year. Without amount of time on the clock, we can't expect our teachers and principals to be great, especially working with low-income kids that are starting school well behind. Basically, we have to expect them to be miracle workers. Right? We have to put more time on the clock to set the kids, set the teachers, set the principals up for success. Now, more time doesn't guarantee success. It's not like algebra, where a negative times a negative equals a positive. But at least at the starting point, we need enough time to get everything done we want to get done. Today, schools are under so much pressure to do great, they're in a zero-sum world. When you all have only 4 hours of instruction for around half the year, and your kids are far behind in reading and math, there's pressure to spend more time in school on reading and math. But with only 4 hours a day, again, you've got to sacrifice something. So if you're going to have more time for reading and math, what are you not going to teach? Science? No fine arts? Something's got to come out. When you have these longer school days, weeks, and years, you can double block the reading. You can double block the math. You can do dual language. You can teach kids in their native language and in English. You can do both without sacrificing everything else you want them to do too. So that's why more time is so important to us. It's just a foundation starting point. Second pillar, which won't go quite in order, second pillar for us is choice and commitment, meaning that parents, students, and teachers within public education choose the school they're going to and choose to make commitments to each other. Right now, there is choice in education in the United States, and I believe here in New Zealand as well. Middle and upper income families have choice. Because if they don't like the school they're zoned to, they can choose to put their kids in private school and pay the tuition. Or they can choose to move to another neighborhood where the homes and the neighborhoods might be more expensive, but they like the school better. But for low-income families, they're trapped. They have one choice for elementary, for primary, one choice for secondary. That, by definition, is a monopoly. Right? If there's no choice. Monopolies produce low quality at high cost. And so ultimately we have to think, how do we break this monopoly? How do we make the system more responsive? And for us, the game changer is not to raise levels of accountability by itself, because there's plenty of accountability in the system right now, at least in the United States. Everyone in the United States is focused on the high stakes accountability tests. There's state tests, and there's state designations and federal designations with no child left behind, and everyone's focused on these tests and making sure that there's nothing wrong with that, because we should be accountable to the state and federal government because they're our largest funder. But I still argue that should not be the primary focus of our accountability. The primary focus of any public school's accountability should be to the kids and parents, right? How do you make that happen? By giving them a choice. By letting them walk out of their house, walk out of their apartment, walk left and go to one public school, walk right and go to a different public school. All right? That's the game changer, because the minute you put that in place, the schools and their central office now have to be thinking beyond being accountable. It's like, I'm going to use a Lord of the Rings reference up here in New Zealand. It's like the Eye of Sauron shifts, right? Instead of focusing on the state and federal government, now suddenly, whoosh, it's on the kids and parents. Because now you got to think, what are we going to do to get the kids and parents to walk to our school? And that's just goal number one. Goal number two has got to be how we make the day so full of learning and so much fun, the kids won't be coming back for more. Right? So that's why choice and commitment, we think, is so important in the system, because it keeps the accountability on the kids and parents. And by the way, if you're going to break the monopoly, it's also having different service providers out there. Just because magnet schools don't count as true choice and commitment. If McDonald's was the only restaurant in the world all of us could go to, just because they put chicken on the menu doesn't mean it's not a monopoly. Right? If you truly have choice, different people, different organizations are providing the goods and services to a community. right? And think about this, we are used to choice. We buy different brands of shampoo, we buy the different type of clothes, we buy different types of bread and milk. We like having choice as society. Why do we want to have choice with just those little things, and we don't want to have choice with the big things in life, like where our kids are spending most of their waking hours every single day? And if choice is good for upper income families, why is that choice not good for low income families as well? So that's why we believe choice and commitment is so important. Our third pillar is power to lead. The fact there's a great, well-trained school leader in place, and the shackles are off. They truly can be not just the principal, they can be the school leader. I intentionally call our principals school leaders. I emphasize the word leaders. And you can differentiate between a principal and a school leader by what I call the shoulder shrug test. The shoulder shrug test, excuse me. You can tell if someone's a principal because if you go up to them and say, you are accountable for getting great results, they're a principal if they go, you gotta be kidding me. And the conversation will go like this. You gotta get great results. You gotta be kidding me. I got 5 teachers who are horrible and ineffective, but I can't get rid of them. There's some great new teachers I want to hire, but I can't get them through HR. And God forbid I want to move my art money bucket to my technology money bucket because I think that's going to drive instruction. I got to fill out forms in triplicate, wait 6 months to give it my firstborn. And you expect me to get great results? So the way you get rid of that shoulder shrug is say, okay, principal, you're going to now be a school leader. Emphasize the word leader, right? Which means you are going to decide who teaches in the building. You decide who does not teach in the building. You decide how to allocate the budget dollars. And now we're going to hold you accountable for great results. We're going to give you more freedom in exchange for more accountability. And inherent in what I just talked about is a very basic premise. People make the difference. If you want to boil KIPP down to even more simple than this, right, is great teaching and more of it. Right? People make the difference. And that's something else that gets lost at the societal level. One more mental exercise to illustrate that point. Imagine I got 2 classrooms up here. You're deciding which one you can put your own child in. Some of us here might be too young to have children, so imagine your younger brother or sister. Right? Classroom to my left, you're looking at the 2 classrooms. Classroom to my left, it doesn't have a bad teacher, it has a mediocre teacher. And it's filled to the brim with all kinds of stuff. There's computers in there, there's science equipment in there, there's math manipulatives, reading books, packed in this classroom to my left. Classroom to my right, bare room, not even desks. But there's a master teacher. Where do you put your own child? Come on, the interactive part of my talk. Where do you put your own child? People want to talk, but they're pointing. All right. So yeah, everyone instinctively we know we want the master teacher for our children, right? And that's great, but society, we get groupthink going. We forget that people make the difference. We forget there are no shortcuts. We start thinking, what little gizmo can we invent, right? And squeeze it into this packed classroom over here and sell it for $19.95. That's going to magically transform the classroom from bad to okay to good. You know, I think it's because, we're the microwave generation. We want things quick and now. That makes sense when we're cooking popcorn. It doesn't make sense when we're teaching children how to read. So we have to go back to the basic ingredients and invest in the most important resource of all, which is the human resource. All part of power to lead. Our 4th pillar, high expectations, which are clearly observable which are clearly defined and observable. And for us, as I explained earlier, it's all about university prep. At the high school level, at the middle school level, at the primary level, at the preschool level, even at the prenatal level. We're not there yet, we're getting there, but we think that's high expectations. And what that looks like is my preschool teachers, they're working with our 3-year-olds in Houston. Those 3-year-olds are the class of 2027. The kids know they're the class of 2027. They're still learning how to count in 2027, but they know they're the class of 2027. Right? The teachers know that too. So when the teachers are lesson planning, they're not thinking, I'm going to get the kids to learn their letters because that's what 3-year-olds need to learn. My teachers are thinking, I need to get the kids to learn all the letters, so by the end of kindergarten, they can read. So by the end of elementary school, they can read chapter books. So by the end of middle school, they can read their textbooks with understanding. So by the end of high school, they're independent learners. So in 2027, when they're sitting in their freshman English college seminar class, they're set for success. That's what my teachers are thinking in 2012, that's high expectations. And our last pillar is great results, which are measurable. Well, ultimately, our scoreboard are how many of our kids are climbing the mountain to get all the way to and through universities, right? We need more data. We need to know daily, weekly, monthly, annually, are they climbing the mountain at the right clip to get where we want them to be at the end of the day so we're not surprised. We feel if you put these 5 pillars in place, the more time, the choice of commitment, the power to lead, the high expectation, the great results, the kids will knock it out of the park. We're on a mission to prove that because too many people today make what I call the yes buts. Too many people, they'll come and visit KIPP, And at first they come very cynical. They think that we're successful because we recruit really smart poor kids. Then they see that's not true. Then they think that we're successful because it's open enrollment, but we'll kick out all the kids who can't hang. And they realize, look at the data, see that's not true. And then they just see it's great teaching more of it. They see it's just because teachers are working really, really hard with the kids and it's working. And I get to the door and I'm thinking, just like we were inspired by our mentor teachers, Harriet Ball and Rafe Esquith, they're going to be inspired. I get to the door and all the inspiration dies. And I start to hear all these yes buts, right? And what I hear, the way it sounds like this, they'll say this is great, but it can't work where I'm from. It can't work in Chicago, can't work in Los Angeles, can't work in Mississippi Delta. And they'll tell me wherever they're from, there's political reasons, there's legal reasons, there's financial reasons, there's socioeconomic reasons why their community is the most screwed up place on the planet. And there must be something in the water in Southwest Houston to make this work. Friends, I've had about 1,000 visitors from around the world realizing there literally are about 1,000 communities in this world all vying for the title, most screwed up place on the planet. And they all think they're going to win. Right? I can't win that debate at the door. So when people come and say, this is great, but it can't work in Chicago, it can't work in Los Angeles, it can't work in Mississippi Delta, I got my notes right down, all right, we have to start schools in Chicago, Los Angeles, Mississippi Delta. Because the actual proofs are possible. We are not going to be able to, we're not trying to hypnotize all 50 million kids in public education in the United States. But we're trying to contribute. And the way we can contribute is wherever people making excuses and don't believe, we want to start schools that are in the same conditions to prove what's possible. Because the day the excuses end, the day solutions are going to start. So we've now grown to, by training our leaders, we now have 125 KIPP schools in 20 states and DC across the United States. And our theory of change is, we're not putting a whole lot more dots on that map. Instead, we're trying to make each of those dots bigger and bigger and bigger. Our theory of change is we want to have the same impact on the local public education system the way FedEx impacted the post office. When FedEx started, people were making yes buts about FedEx, saying, it can't really work. And then FedEx started, and then they were still making yes buts. All right, you can go from Chicago to New York, but you can't send packages from Atlanta to Stockholm, guaranteed. When FedEx got to 10% market share, that's when the post office started doing next day air. And today it's not just about FedEx and the post office. There's UPS, there's DHL, there's a whole industry, and we all benefited from as consumers. They all do a good job shipping our packages because they know if they screw up, we're going somewhere else. So is there a similar tipping point in public education? Can places like KIPP and Yes Prep, like where I am in Houston, Yes Prep's another terrific charter school, can we find the tipping point where we grow to serve enough kids? Where not only we're doing a good job with our kids, but we've helped push the public school system to start to compete with us and get better with their kids as well. And so that's why we're trying to grow to basically find this tipping point where we hit an equilibrium where we're all doing better. Another just pragmatic way to look at it is last year we had 10,000 kids and parents trying to come to KIPP in Houston. Even with, Houston's our largest region with 20 schools and 9,000 kids, even at our size, we only had room for about 2,000 of those kids and families. So we were saying, sorry, no room, to 8,000 kids and parents who wanted to come. We will only be able to catch up to that wait list if the other schools get better, so the kids and parents stop wanting to come. So that's why we're on a mission to try to do it. Not only are we trying to do a good job with our kids, we're trying, whatever we can do to help the system improve, that's what we're trying to do as well. So I'm going to get ready to close in a few more minutes here. And as I do, I'm a fifth grade teacher, so I'm going to read a little Dr. Seuss with all of you. You guys are going to actually help me read it. You've been very quiet, but get ready to say a few words, because I'm going to turn to you in a minute. And this helps just to frame, I think, what the theme I'm trying to get across. Well, let me ask, has anyone here ever read Ambient Zebra before? Okay. No, it's not his most famous book. It's not as famous as Cat in the Hat and Sneetches, things like that. But here we go. You can help me read it here. Said Conrad Cornelius O'Donnell Odell, my very young friend who's learning to spell. The A is for ape and the B is for bear. The C is for camel, the H is for hare. The M is for mouse, the R is for rat. I know all the choices letters like that. Through to Z is for zebra. I know them all well. Said Conrad Cornelius O'Donnell O. Thank you. So now I know everything anyone knows from beginning to end, from start to the close. Because Z is as far as the alphabet. Then he almost fell flat on his face on the floor when I picked up the chalk and drew one letter, a letter he never have dreamed of before. And I said, you can stop if you want with the Z, because most people still stop with a Z, but not. In the places I go, there are things that I see that I never could spell if I stopped with a Z. I'm telling you this because you're one of my friends. My alphabet starts where your alphabet. My alphabet starts with a letter called Yuz. It's a letter I use to spell Yazamatuz. You'll be sort of surprised what there is to be found once you go beyond Z and start poking around. The places I took him, I tried hard to tell. Young Conrad Cornelius O'Donnell O. A few brand new wonderful words he might spell. I led him around, I tried hard to show. There's things beyond Z that most people don't. I think I took him past zebra as far as I could, and I think perhaps maybe I did him some good. Because finally he said, this is really great stuff. And I guess the old alphabet isn't good. So now the letters use are something to see. Most people still stop at the Z, but not he. The end. Right? It's about believing. It's about going beyond Z. I'm not saying we should not teach A to Z to our children. We should. I'm saying, but if we want to have extraordinary results for our kids, we can't expect ordinary, same old thinking, action, input to lead to something different. Now, this looks all cute in the Seuss world. My last mental image I want to leave you with is my favorite picture here. This Norman Atkins at Graduate School of Education gave me this picture about 7 years ago. And this is what Beyond Z looks like in the real world example. This is the 1924 Tour de France. In case you haven't told see what's going on, this picture is the 1924 Tour de France. In that front row, one of the cyclists is lighting the cigarette of another cyclist.
Thanks, drugs now.
All right? So, you know, apparently 90 years ago, not only do we believe in the world that smoking was okay for you, we believe smoking helped athletic performance. I didn't get it. I didn't believe it. It's a good thing I live in Houston. We have the world's largest medical center. I took the picture to the doctors in the medical center. Will you please explain what's going on in this picture? Sure enough, 90 years ago, we believed smoking thinned out the blood, which made the blood travel around the body faster, delivering oxygen to the muscles at a faster rate. So think about what that meant. 90 years ago, when you were training, it's the most difficult athletic contest known to mankind. Part of that training regimen was bring along a few extra packs of Marlboros. All right? Talk about a complete 180-degree mind shift in thinking and belief of what we thought about smoking back then, what we think about smoking today. One of those guys in that picture had to be the first one to go beyond Z. Right? Someone had to say, you know what, guys, I'm not so sure this is a hot idea. Right? Someone would be the first, someone would be the second. Otherwise, if there's only one person, people think he's crazy. Someone had to agree with him. Someone said, you know what, you're right. I get off my bike, I'm coughing a lot. Let's run a few tests or something. Right? Someone would be the first, one would be the second to go beyond Z. And look what happened all across the years. If we can change our mindset and belief in smoking, why can't we change our mindset and belief in education? If we could snap a picture here in Christ Church of how we were delivering public education to our children, and we put that picture up on the screen 80 years from now, I bet people would be chuckling looking at that picture the way we chuckle at this. Here's our chance to recognize it. Here's our chance to do something about it. Here's a chance to be courageous and try some new things that are going to help our children and have a mindset shift that we all start to believe. And if we do that, we, like the Messiah, will also be able to say that all of our children are well. Thank you for being here tonight. I appreciate it.